Hello and welcome to the Motorsport Chat. I'm Natalie.
I'm Liv.
And I'm Tiara.
In the motorsport headlines this week, Max Verstappen is back dominating after the Japanese Grand Prix last Sunday, making it his 13th win this season.
Jessica Hawkins was given her first F1 test outing in the AMR 21 at the Hungaroring last week. This is a huge step into helping women climb the ladder to get into Formula One.
Rumours have surfaced of Sebastian Vettel being in talks with the WEC team Joe to Porsche about a drive in 2024. As well as this, Mick Schumacher is set to test for Alpine's WEC team.
Yesterday, it was announced that former AlphaTauri driver Nick de Vries will drive for Mahindra Racing in the 23 and 24 season. This follows from the news from Tuesday that Lucas di Grassi has parted ways with Mahindra Racing and hasn't released any more information about his future. After 113 races, will di Grassi continue in Formula E with a different team or move to a different racing series?
The World Rally Championship is back this weekend with the Chile Rally, but drivers competing in the championship are calling for a more compact schedule for next year.
This year, we have seen one of the most dominant F1 championships ever, with Red Bull Racing winning 15 out of 16 races this year, with Verstappen winning 11 of those races. Verstappen's winning streak of 10 races was broken by Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz's win in Singapore.
So, the Singapore Grand Prix, that was quite an exciting race.
It was.
Definitely.
It was the first time we've not seen Max win in a long time. So I think it was refreshing for fans in a way. I think it's been great to see Max win over the course of the year.
Absolutely.
It's good to see a new driver dominating, but we did see it last year. And I think after 10 races, you do want to see a new driver on the top step of the podium.
You want the excitement back.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz, it's his second win in Formula One now, which is quite impressive considering he's not in, obviously, the fastest car.
Yeah, definitely.
He put out quite an impressive performance in qualifying and the race, as did both McLarens.
They did. McLaren have done so well. So well.
So we had Sainz on the podium.
We did.
The top step of the podium, followed by Norris and Hamilton.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a very exciting race because we had battles throughout. The Red Bulls weren't at the top of the grid for once.
They weren't.
So it was quite unpredictable. We didn't know who was going to get onto the podium, honestly. It was nearly 10 laps to the end and I still
had no idea.
Yeah. You couldn't pinpoint who was going to come out on top, really.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from the sport. You want to have that sort of excitement, that competitiveness, and you don't always get that when there's one team that's dominating the sport. So
exactly.
That's something we've missed the past 2 years.
Definitely.
So that was refreshing to see. It was bizarre, the lack of pace that Red Bull had.
I want to know what has gone wrong.
Because obviously from last Sunday, obviously the pace came back, but that was a very weird blip in the year where it was like a completely different car.
It was like Max in the car just didn't click. He was all over the place.
Yeah, usually Max in the car, he's smooth, very little mistakes. It's a rare occasion you see Verstappen in this Red Bull making a mistake.
Yeah.
So he just did not click with the car. He was tapping the barriers. He just was not on the pace the whole weekend. So I think to see them both struggle so much and far down the grid, was it just that Singapore was the track that they struggled in for Red Bull this year?
I don't know. It is so strange though.
It's one of those things where you'd really want to be a fly in the wall for those conversations where they're discussing what's going wrong. Yeah. Because it's really bizarre. I mean, if you could have seen it coming, maybe it wouldn't have been such a surprise, but for both Red Bulls to do so, not bad, but to have such a weird blip, there was something that I think went wrong.
Yeah. I think it wasn't a track that they were looking to be far ahead in, but I don't think they expected to be quite so far behind the grid.
Because their dominance through the whole of the first bit before the summer break, they were just knew that they were going to win. If Max was starting anywhere, he'd still get on the podium.
But I think from the whole weekend, looking towards Sunday, you knew that Max wasn't there, like guaranteed a win.
Yeah.
It was the qualifying that was, it just...
Yeah. Whereas the rest of the season, he was guaranteed a win, but that weekend it was very, very different. Obviously, that race as well, we saw Liam Lawson in the points.
Insane drive.
First points in F1. Obviously, his teammate Yuki got taken out by Sergio Perez, which is not great because Perez shouldn't be. First of all, Perez isn't a top car. He shouldn't be struggling to overtake cars like that.
He's been making some mistakes.
He's not had the best season at all.
He hasn't.
Obviously, Singapore wasn't a great race for him.
Well,
then Japan last weekend.
That was
just
like
2 retirements in one race. That's something that
you just don't
most
see it.
F1 fans can say they've never seen before. The pressure is coming down on him clearly.
Definitely.
He's not coping with this car. Obviously, I know that the car is catered towards
it is
Verstappen.
built around Max, isn't it?
But with his dominance coming back in Japan, to see Perez struggle so much, and he was going for gaps that weren't there.
Yeah, he was just, he crashed and he bumped people, and it was just
seemed
ridiculous.
Really clumsy overall.
Just not driving well.
And it was just a bit of a bizarre situation, retiring twice. So that was deemed as like legal. So they were allowed to do it. They obviously checked before they brought him back out. But to take him back out on another lap, I'm not sure if I'm behind that being a legal thing, because realistically, he could have put another car out on date. Like,
exactly.
He could have caused another collision by doing that.
Exactly. And sorry, you're going.
Okay. I was going to say, it sort of seems like, of course, he's getting clumsier and clumsier, and of course, when you're part of Red Bull, there's going to be that pressure because, like you guys said, the car is built around Max. It's catered to him, but you need to be able to overcome those things, and we've seen it happen before with Red Bull. When you've got a driver that sort of succumbs to that pressure, it never goes well. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes over this as well, how he gets over it, and hopefully he does.
I mean, technically it was quite a clever move from Red Bull, because by putting it back out on track, he could take the penalty, meaning that going into the Qatar Grand Prix, you wouldn't have to have a grid penalty or a penalty at all, which was quite a clever move, really.
It was,
But then, is that really fair? Because does that mean, was it Magnussen he took out?
Yeah, he took out Magnussen, didn't he?
Does that mean he doesn't really get the justice for being like taken out of the race and being hit by him? Not really. Do you think that Perez is perhaps making mistakes because he feels like his seat is in jeopardy by possibly Ricciardo, Lawson, any other Red Bull Junior drivers, do you think?
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely.
I think that is definitely something that's playing on his mind, because I would be the same.
No, me too. I think the thing is, with when you're a number 2 at Red Bull, you're constantly replaceable. Like, there will be a time where you're out of the seat and someone else comes in and everyone moves on.
You've always got it at the back
We've
of your
seen
mind.
it before.
That seat could go anytime.
Yeah, it's happened, 3 times before?
Yeah.
So it could easily happen again.
Definitely. So in Japan, we also saw both McLaren drivers on the podium.
Yes,
so
we did.
Bizarrely, we were talking about this before, it felt like that was Piastri's not his first time on the podium. He felt like a natural up there, like he'd done it millions of times before. Which
so
in
cool.
feeder series, he has been on the podium many times, but Formula One, it's
F1,
so different.
It's so different.
You would think he would seem a bit more nervous or be, I don't know, a bit more.
He was cool as you like he was just like,
he
was first row day.
Yeah. But I think that is also demonstrated with his driving. He's quite calm.
He is.
And he's just quite a smooth driver, really. He doesn't panic, and he's not under pressure. You'd think in a position where he's at the front of the grid, he might crumble, make a mistake, but he just keeps his cool. And I think he works well with Norris. I think they're quite similar in their driving style.
Yes.
Which I think works quite well for the team. Could it possibly mean that there would be a rivalry in the future between them both? With quite the similar driving style, they're quite similar with the pace as well in the car. Obviously,
I think there'll be good battles.
Second and third on the podium,
definitely.
they're both getting the maximum out of that car, which is great to see.
Yeah, especially
absolutely.
from how they started in the season. They were, you know, P18,
grid.
P19.
Yeah.
Like just
to see their progression throughout the season has been great to watch as a fan.
Yeah, 100%.
And could we see them as possible championship contenders for next year?
Yeah.
That
I think
is
if
the
they
question to-
keep the car how it is now,
work
then I
on
think they
improving
will.
on it, on all the good things they've done this season. I think there's definitely room for competition.
Yeah,
the
I think they're
development
going to be
of
up
that
there.
car has been great to watch. Obviously, through that race, we also saw both Mercs battling really close.
They were
really
very
close
exciting.
racing.
Yeah.
At times, you thought that they were going to take each other out. We might see another Hamilton-Rosberg situation in
Yeah.
the Spanish Grand Prix in 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
I mean, it was exciting to watch, but it was also slightly terrifying.
Yeah.
Considering Russell absolutely flunked it in the Singapore Grand Prix
Such a shame.
lost that
was
podium
insane.
by hitting the barrier. But I think, he's not had the greatest time in the last couple of races.
He hasn't.
I think it was a shame that we didn't see them further up. I thought possibly a podium for them, but the McLarens seem to just have it out on the rest of the midfield, really.
Yeah.
And I think with Norris getting 2 consecutive podiums, he's had 2 PTs now in a row.
He has.
Which is impressive considering, obviously, how they started.
Yeah.
And a fun fact for you, Lando Norris has got as many second places as Sergio Perez.
That's...
Which is not great considering
for Checo.
Checo's in
it
the
does put
fastest
things
car on the
into
grid.
perspective a bit,
But it makes you think Lando Norris is going to be moving to Red Bull, I think.
Definitely. We also saw the situation with Gasly and Ocon towards the end of the race, where there was a situation where Alpine had asked Gasly to give the place back to Ocon, and he got very aggressive over the radio. It was more of a misunderstanding, but obviously as a fan you hear the shouts on the radio and you think, the chaos. And obviously looking back at their history,
not great.
they've not got on in the past.
No.
And I think you can still see the tension between them both when you see them in like conferences or in videos together. You can tell that it's just not quite the same between them both. But there were quite a few DNFs as well. I think we saw 5 DNFs on that race.
It was,
So, and Checo was obviously 2 of them. Twice as well. Lawson just missed out on getting points again, which it's exciting to see him perform so well.
It's so
consistently.
nice.
Because we know it wasn't just a great performance. Like I think when we saw De Vries do his race in Monza, when he covered for
Alex, I think was that when he had his appendix out. Yeah.
We saw him getting the points, which was incredible, but then when he got in the car for the year, he didn't have that consistency. He was at the back of the grid.
It's like he was under pressure, wasn't he?
He could not perform throughout the year. Whereas I think this is a great sign for Lawson that he is putting the drives out week after week, which is what Red Bull would be looking for realistically in the driver. It was recently announced that both Ricciardo and Tsunoda have been re-signed. What's your take on that? Do you think that Lawson should have been given a chance or considered, especially since Ricciardo's just got an injury with his hand fracture?
Well, I think it's difficult to say because, as you said with Nick De Vries, as soon as he got in an F1 car, he crumbled. So, but Liam Lawson has just been incredible. So I think maybe he does deserve that.
Do you think it's possibly worth him waiting to see when Sergio Perez loses his seat and possibly moves up to Red Bull?
Yeah, because there's definitely, I feel like, it sounds awful to say, but I feel like with Perez, he is half out of the seat. Anyways, like it's...
He probably knows it himself.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly. But I would say with Lawson, he's been so fantastic, of course. And it's so difficult to say whether, he should have been given a seat. However, I would say maybe he was considered. I mean, as fans, you never know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was quite interesting. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about Perez, and one of them said how it would be really sad to see him leave F1 and they feel really sorry for him. And then the other was saying how they don't really feel sorry for him. He's been in the fastest car on the grid.
Yeah.
For,
he's had his chance
3 years
and hasn't.
now.
Yeah.
He's won races with Red Bull. He's had his glory, realistically.
Exactly.
He was never going to be world champion with Verstappen in that
No,
car.
absolutely. Yeah.
As his teammate. So I think realistically, he's not going to leave F1 short of money. He's going to have a great life after it. He's had possibly the best time he could have had at the team. So I think it possibly is his time to go.
I think so.
Yeah, I think Red Bull have never been known to be a gentle team. I mean,
No.
being ruthless is part of how they are. It's how they win. It's how they're consistent. So when someone isn't performing, unfortunately, they do have to go. So
Exactly.
There were also rumours of Lawson going to Williams possibly and Logan Sargent losing his seat. What's your take on that? Because obviously Sargent hasn't been putting out the performances.
No, he hasn't scored any points this
people
season.
have been comparing him to Latifi because he's obviously like kind of a pay driver, some would say.
Yeah.
And as well as that, he's crashed quite a few times, quite a few DNFs as of recently as well. So what's your take on that? Lawson possibly getting that.
I can't see him going to driving a Williams.
We saw Albon, who was a Red Bull driver, going to Williams, which is a related team.
It's always a possibility. Whether it actually could happen, I'm not so sure, but why not?
Yeah.
Give it
Who
a go.
knows?
Yeah.
It could happen. It might not.
Definitely.
But I think
crazy things happen.
him and Alex, I think, would actually make quite a nice team. I'd quite like that.
Yeah. So we saw the announcement of Jess Hawkins and how she did the F1 test.
We did.
In Budapest, which is amazing to see a woman in an F1 car, which is something we all missed out on. We've wanted to see for a long time. It's honestly, it just makes people smile seeing those pictures.
Yeah.
But I think the most gut-wrenching thing about this amazing news is the amount of backlash that it's had on social media.
Awful.
It's disgusting.
People
It's
commenting
so
misogynistic comments online about her not deserving the seat, just very disgusting and vile comments about women being in this position and how people were saying it's not news and that it shouldn't be a thing and that it wasn't.
There were so many comments that were so unnecessary.
Overwhelming. You're always going to get negative comments about things like that because that's just part of social media, especially when you're such a popular figure. But the amount of comments, it was
degrading for her, especially. For such an exciting time for her to do something so spectacular. But I think we're seeing some progression within the motorsport community for women, especially with F1 Academy. Although over the past year it hasn't been broadcasted, which was a big step down because obviously W Series was shown on TV. They have announced that they are going to broadcast it, which is a step up, I suppose, because it's also going to be placed on some of the same weekends as F1, which is what we needed to see.
That is what we need,
That's another step up. But we need to see the progression of them moving into the Formula 3, getting more test drives for those kind of series. Opportunities like this, F1 testing, is a huge step. Obviously, we saw Jamie Chadwick couldn't quite make it to F1. Will she eventually, as she progresses through to IndyCar and possibly gets more experience in American racing series, will she travel back to Europe and then
I think she potentially could.
I could see her doing endurance for a little bit and then moving into Formula 1.
Because she raced in W Series, she just raced so well.
The F1 drivers spoke so highly of her. It was unfortunate to see that she couldn't progress into Formula 2 or Formula 3 and then move into F1. We didn't even see her get that opportunity, the funding for it, which was so horrible to see because she was a Williams driver, so you wonder how she wasn't able to get the funding. But that was quite disappointing to see.
It was,
But at least we've seen that this week some good news. De Vries has signed for Formula E for Mahindra Racing.
He's back.
Which is great to see because he posted on his Instagram about him being in America, something about going to
Harvard.
So I thought I was a bit gutted because I thought, oh, that's devastating because he's a great driver.
Yeah, 7 championships in Formula E.
And it would be awful to see him like just stop driving because of the bad experience he's had in Formula 1. Yeah. But obviously to see him going back to Formula E after winning the championship.
Yeah, it's lovely to see.
Yeah, it's great to see. Sending on a high note. So obviously with the past few races, they've been quite exciting. They've been possibly the 2 best races of the season, you could argue.
100%.
We've had some great memes from
the
races.
We have.
Especially with the McLaren boys. Something about them two together. Yeah. It's like they're a little
They're the same
duo.
people.
Double act.
This is our favourite meme. Something about it is just they look like the characters.
It's so accurate.
And it's just
and I
the
love
best thing. I keep seeing it everywhere and every time it just but they are like the little ferrets, aren't they?
They are, I think, is that what they are?
I don't know.
I'm not really too sure.
It's my favourite meme.
But Max just is Sid the Sloth.
Absolutely love it. The 3 of them together.
Can't unsee it.
Also, Max Verstappen spoke about the cooldown room.
His podcast.
And how he doesn't like the fact that it's being called his podcast. Which I think is so bizarre because that's such a cool name.
It's so cool. I love it.
Everyone loves it. Every Grand Prix, it's Max Verstappen's podcast.
Yeah, the tweets about it, it's everywhere.
And obviously, both Merc boys, it was their first time on the podcast this year, and he spoke and said he didn't like it. He doesn't like podcasts, so he wants to find a cool name for it, which is a bit gutting.
Yeah, it's all right.
So we're going to end on question of the day. So my question for you two is, for the 2024 season, if you could go to one race, what would that race be?
Easy, Singapore.
Singapore.
I think it would just be so cool.
Yeah.
Like night race.
Yeah.
Just the cars under the lights.
The marina.
Marina. Love it.
You wouldn't want to go to Las Vegas?
No.
If you could go for free?
Oh, if I could go for free, I'd just go. But I think Singapore is a much more exciting race. Yeah. Well, we haven't actually seen Las Vegas yet.
That is very true. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously the tickets, we looked last night actually.
Yeah, we were.
We weren't intended to go, but just to have a look. And the cheapest ticket was 1,500.
It's something like that. It's ridiculous.
I mean, who's not the average person is never going to be able to afford that.
No, absolutely not.
Ever.
No. But the sport itself is so. It's got a lot of money. Yeah.
It's a high profile sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Of course, it doesn't justify it, but it sort of makes sense in a way.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing at all, and F1 should be accessible to all types of people who have different incomes, backgrounds, and things like that. But I do think that the pricing is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if I could go for free, Las Vegas, I would. But if I had to choose, just for the plot.
Just for the plot.
The worst part is the track doesn't even look.
It's like
the
a
best
square.
Yeah. I mean.
It's
the straight as well. It just doesn't look exciting. I just don't see how, especially with the Mercs, they are going to, as soon as they get DRS, they are going to run away with the win. Yeah. Which is not great, but...
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
Would you say you'd go to Las Vegas then if you could?
If it was free, yes. But my choice for a track next year, it sounds really boring. I would want to go to Spa.
That is not boring.
Spa is not boring. I'd love to go to Spa.
Yeah, I love it. It's always just has a chaotic energy to it, and I really enjoy that. So I would choose Spa.
Yeah,
that's a good one actually. What's yours?
I think I would say Brazil, São Paulo.
Oh, São Paulo.
I'll be honest. I don't know what it is about that circuit, but I could watch it for hours and hours and hours on end. Something about like the qualified it's so satisfying to watch.
That is a good one actually.
I don't know why, but every time I just think of that circuit. I also love Imola.
I
love watching Imola. Obviously the last few years have not been the best races there, but I think it's a track with great potential. We've seen really good races there in the past. Just hope the grid gets closer so we can see some more exciting races.
100%.
So
that's what we need.
That was
more
the question
exciting.
of the day. So that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.